Hi, everyone. My name is Noah. I am an enterprise advocate here at Halp. I will be your guide over the next 30 minutes or so as we talk about Halp and how it works in Slack. So the 10,000-foot view is that Halp is a ticketing system that lives in Slack. So when you're installing Halp, you're installing it into your Slack workspace, and you can work on the ticket from Slack and you can create it from Slack and all of that. And you can use Halp as a totally standalone ticketing system where all you need is Slack in order to use it, and that's what we're talking about today. Or you can use Halp with an integration for something like Zendesk or Jira. Those integrations are bi-directional, so comments, status changes, assignment, custom fields, all those things sync back and forth. But today we're focused on Halp as a standalone ticketing system. So the way that I tend to run these demos is we're going to start at the least process and we're going to get to the most process. So the least process is I'm a user at the company and I need help, and I just message the person I know. And I go, oh, hey, like I know XYZ on this team, I'll message them and they'll help me out. That's where we're going to start, and we want to get away from that. And what we want to get to is a scenario where I'm a user and I need help and I submit a ticket and I'm on my way, right? And I'm the best user I can be. So what I have in front of me is I have two Slack windows open in the same workspace. Now on the left, I'm going to be in Slack as Mike, the requester, who is going to send us messages and ask for help and submit tickets and all of that. And on the right, I'm in Slack as 11, our agent, the person that is going to work on the ticket and is going to resolve the issue and all of that. So this is the agent profile on the right under 11. So scenario one is I'm Mike and I need help and I just message the person I know. So I message 11 and I go, hey, I need help. And I see this message from Mike and I think, okay, well, this is a real thing that does eventually need to get done. You can't just ignore it. But instead of telling Mike, okay, go send an email or go to the portal or copy pasting this into a ticketing system for him, what I can do is I can take his message and I can turn it into a ticket after the fact. And the way that happens is by using an emoji. This ticket emoji here, this is the default. So this comes out of the box when you install Halp, and it's hooked up to a trigger that says when this emoji is used, then create a ticket, right? I can hook up other emojis too. So I could use a custom emoji to assign it to a specific person while I create the ticket, or the fire emoji to create a ticket and send it to a certain team, right? But for us, we're going to use just the default ticket emoji. And when we do this, it says, okay, go ahead and click the raise a request button. And this is where we are introduced to the core concept of Halp, which is the queue. So you can see I've got a list of forms here for the bugs team and the customer success team and facilities and help desk and so on. And these are all teams that are using Halp and the forms that they have. So I could say, okay, this is a good IT help ticket and maybe it syncs with Jira. I could say, okay, this is a customer success issue and maybe it syncs with Zendesk. But for us, I'll say, okay, this is an office issue and I need help and there's an issue in Office A, right? So I'll go ahead and I'll click create. And when I do this, a few things are going to happen in Slack. For the end user, for Mike, what he gets is a DM from the Assist app, which you can rebrand to like company ticket bot or help desk or something with ticket in the name. And in this DM is where the requester side of the ticket lives. So Mike can say, okay, I've got an open ticket now, and here's my ticket number and my title and who it's assigned to and all those things. I've enabled some settings that let my users close their own tickets as well. So if it's a false alarm, Mike can say, never mind. I'm also allowing him to edit custom fields. If he says, oh, actually, never mind, it's Office B, he can do that. The most important things for the user in this interaction is one, this DM from the Assist app is private to just Mike. So if that's why he's sending me a direct message in the first place, because it's sensitive info, it remains private from Mike. And of course, the team that's going to handle it, in this case, the facilities team, they can see it too. The other thing that's important for Mike is if there's more that Mike needs to tell us about his request, any message in the thread here is synced with the ticket. And you can even customize this first message to say something like, please reply to the thread or check this doc out or something. So Mike says, okay, here's more info. Here's a file. Here's a screenshot. As long as it's in the thread here, it's going to hit that specific ticket, 532. So for the end user, this is what it looks like. It started as a DM. We use the emoji. We bring them back into a process. Now Mike has a ticket that he could see and he can reply to, and there's a status and all of that. for my team of agents, they can work from Slack itself, which is what I'm going to show you first, or they can work from the Halp web interface. And I mentioned those queues earlier, and the first thing that you do when you install the Halp app is you set up a queue. And a queue is basically a private channel in Slack, which is agent only. So only the 4 facilities people that work on those tickets are in the facilities channel here. And the 3 help desk people are in that channel, and so on for other teams. And if I click into this facilities queue, we can see the other side of that ticket from Mike is in here. So the idea is that I can swarm this ticket now with whoever else is on my team, and we can all work on it together from here. So I'll reply to Mike and I'll say, thanks, we're on it. And of course, anyone else on my team that's in this channel with me, they can see that I've sent that message. They know that I'm talking to Mike, and Mike gets another notification that says, hey, this person replied on this ticket. Here's the message in the link, and there's that message. So from both sides, we're just chatting in the thread. It syncs either direction. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this ticket here in the queue, in the triage channel in Slack, and I'm going to do the whole round trip before we flip over to the web. So we've got this ticket. And I sent a reply to Mike, and now I have to do some actual heavy lifting. So I'm going to edit the ticket, and this is where I can make basic changes. So I'll say like needs office help is a better type. And I could assign it to somebody, and they'll get a DM from the Assist app that says, hey, you've been assigned a ticket. Here's a link. And I can change the status from here and put it back to open. I can change fields on the form, and I'll say Office B is having a Wi-Fi issue. And I can also change any fields for the queue or global fields. All of that is pretty straightforward. What's less straightforward, but is very important, is this followers tab. Now, a follower is our analog for a CC in Slack. So for somebody that's working on tickets regularly and needs to edit fields and be assigned tickets and read and write private notes and all of those things, that's when we'd say, okay, add them to the queue, and you pay for them as an agent, as a possible assignee. But maybe there's somebody that once a month or once every 2 months says yes or no about a ticket, or they just need to be in the loop very occasionally. And that's where something like followers comes in, because it's our analog for a CC in Slack. So a follower can be anyone in your Slack workspace, and I'll type in myself and I'll add myself as a follower. Let's say I'm Mike's manager and I just need to be in the loop. I get added as a follower, and you can see that because I'm 11 right now, I got that DM from the Assist app with the ticket. Now I am actually an agent, so you can see I can do anything on the ticket, like editing it and assigning it and all of that. If I was just another user, I would be able to see and do the same things that Mike can here. I'd be able to see public replies, make public replies, see the title and the status and that kind of thing. So it's very important. Adding somebody as a follower is useful when they're not somebody who's working on tickets regularly. So we'll go ahead and I'll save those changes, right? We changed the title and the status and all of that. All of those changes, they change in the triage channel. The rest of my team can see that, and they change for our requester, Mike, too. And I'll go ahead and I'm going to do one thing really quick here. I'm going to start my message on the channel, the triage channel side of it. I'm going to say, this is a private note. And what this lock emoji does is it says, any message following this lock emoji is going to be private for just agents. So it's still tracked on the ticket. The rest of my team can see it. If we need to discuss things on the ticket without telling the user, this is how we do it. And of course, Mike is not going to see that message on his end. And now it's done. I'll go ahead and I'll tell Mike, I'm going to take this and I'll tell Mike, this is fixed. And I'll go ahead and I'll close it. And you can see in our triage channel, the ticket says closed and it's collapsed and it's taking up a little less space, and people can see that it's done. And our requester, Mike, has another badge notification that says, hey, your ticket's closed. Did you have a good time or a not so good time, or this is not actually fixed and we need to reopen it, right? So that's the very quick back and forth in Slack. What I want to do really quickly is I want to show you what it looks like in the web. So you can see that our ticket number here is hyperlinked. So if and I'll just copy this over to our window here. If I go to that hyperlinked ticket number, this is the ticket in the Halp web interface. And I can work on it from here instead and say, oh, actually, this is not closed. This should be pending. And I'll reply to Mike and say, I'm reopening this. And of course, you'll see that in Slack. And I can add followers and add fields and do all the same things. So you can work on tickets from the web, and you can also click this all tickets button or just go to our tickets page and get that bird's eye view. So if I'm in Slack at that moment, or if I really love working from Slack, I can always do that, but you're not forced to. If I've got a long list of tickets that I know I need to work through today, I might come here instead. And I can build out a good filter for myself and focus on a specific queue or a specific signee or request or a status or whatever I need to. And I can work on tickets one-to-one, or I can bulk cache them and say, hey, actually, these 5 tickets here, these are this kind of ticket. Let's move them. Actually, let's find a better one. Let's say, hey, these 3 tickets here, they're not facilities. They're really sales, and that team needs to see it. Or these tickets should have a different status or a different assignee, or hey, they're test tickets, like let's archive them. So you can do the whole round trip of the ticket from Slack, or you can do the whole round trip of the ticket from the web here. Either way works. Now, keep in mind, this was just the least process, right? We don't want people DMing you when they need help, but it's going to happen, and you can use an emoji to bring them back in. The middle ground between the least process of DMing and the most process of just making a ticket is, I think, it's going to a channel. And you might have one of these channels today that's like office issues or ask IT or something like that. And Halp can be used in those channels too. So this facilities help channel, this is a channel that is linked to my facilities queue. So what's happened beforehand is we've added the assist app to this channel, and we've said, hey, it's a request channel, it's a request channel for the facilities team. And that means that our facilities queue settings apply there. So we require a form or we don't, or we have this privacy setting enabled or we don't, or we have auto answering enabled or we don't. And I'll show you more of those features behind the scenes. But what I'm getting at here is that that means the facilities team owns facilities help. They see our forms. When you make a ticket here, it goes to facilities. And what's different about this use case is somebody comes in and they go, hey, I need help, right? Of course, I could be monitoring the channel and using the emoji for Mike, like we did before, or we could enable a setting that lets end users create tickets themselves with the emoji, and I've done that. So Mike can say, hey, I'm not just asking for fun here. I'm going to use the emoji. I want to make sure I get a ticket. Now Mike is filling out that form. And he can tell us more about it. And he can say, hey, this office issue, I need help again. Now, by default, there's a big difference here that you'll see. Oh, okay, there we go. You can see that instead of Mike getting a DM from the Assist app with the ticket, what happens is instead, we launch a thread below his message, and in that thread is the ticket. So just like before, he can see all the basics of the ticket. He can reply and say, hey, here's more info. But because this ticket is actually in the facilities help channel, it's in the request channel, other users could see this too. It's not private for just Mike. Other users could say, oh, hey, Mike, I just reported this, so you're good. Like, this is a duplicate. Or, hey, I was just about to report this. I'm going to track your ticket and keep an eye on it for my own sake instead of creating a duplicate, right? So this is a fully public ticket, which hopefully lets users self-solve and hopefully lets them cut down on duplicates, right? Now, I say by default because there are settings you can enable that say, hey, even though this ticket was raised in a channel, we want it to be private. So let me show you an example. We have this facilities help channel is a request channel for our facilities queue. I have an HR help channel too. And in this one, I have a setting enabled called private replies. So somebody comes here and they go, hey, I need help. It's private. And then they use the emoji. And we fill out this quick form and I'll say, hey, it's an HR request and I need help. You can see that we send a message below the thread, but that message says, hey, you've got a private ticket. So any message in the thread here, it's not for the ticket. Instead, go check out this DM you have from the Assist app, and there's your ticket. So even though I reported this in a channel in front of the whole channel, the rest of the conversation is private, and that's a queue level setting. Now, my favorite combination of settings, and let me show you, is a few. It's requiring a form, so Mike has to tell me a couple important things in order to create a ticket. And it's also using auto create and answers. So let me show you what that means. So I'm in my Halp web account again, and this is where we have those settings that allow people to create tickets with the emoji or not. And this is all where our queue settings live. So if I pop into facilities, I can look at those things. Let me just expand this real quick. And this is that privacy setting we saw for HR, where I say, hey, we care about it being private. If you come here, you get a DM. I can also enable auto answering for this team and say, hey, based on certain keywords, we want to be sending you a message that tells you the answer. Another team maybe doesn't. So you can pick and choose on a per queue basis. And also, we require a form. We don't want to get tickets that say, hey, I just need help. You need to tell us like office location, priority, and all of those things. On this page, I can also say, who is an agent for my team? I can enable some auto assignment rules for things like round robin. I can change my auto response, fields, forms, statuses, SLAs, all those good things. And I can also see which channel I own. So let's check out facilities help here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, okay, now this is auto create. So we're not going to watch this channel anymore and use the emoji. We're not even going to ask users to use the emoji. If you're typing in the ask facilities channel or the facilities help channel, we assume you want a ticket. So let's see what this looks like. So I'm Mike, and I come back into facilities help and I go, I need help. And instead of somebody having to use the emoji, Mike gets a prompt back that goes, hey, are you trying to make a ticket? If so, great. Fill out the form and we're good to go. And I like this because that way you're not having to keep an eye on the channel and use the emoji or train people to use the emoji. You're just giving them a nice little Slack whisper that says, hey, if you want a ticket, this is how you get it. Now, answers is the last piece of the puzzle here for request channels, from my opinion. So you can deflect certain tickets by creating a trigger. We have our own trigger system in Halp, which we call recipe builders, where based on a certain field or a certain form or emoji, you could send a message on the ticket that says, hey, we see you filled out this kind of ticket. Here's the doc you should follow, or here is the phone number you should call. What's different with answers is that answers is pre-ticket deflection. So something where you say, hey, like actually, you might not even need a ticket. We might be able to solve this for you just with one message. So I have that turned on for my queue. And I also have these follow-ups enabled, which say, hey, after this automated answer has been suggested, check in again after X time and see if they did something. And again, if they haven't taken any action after X time, then just create a ticket from it or consider it resolved. So part of this is I have to have auto answers on for my queue. And the other side is that I have to have an answer itself. So over on this answers page here, you can see I've got a few. And for facilities, it's the easiest one possible. It's a Wi-Fi password. So if I click into this, you can see that I can edit this and I can set the keywords to look for, the key phrases. So I can say, hey, if someone says Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi password, this might be the answer they're looking for. And here's that custom answer that I plugged in. So for any given message in our channel, someone goes, hey, I need help. They get the prompt, they fill out the form, they've got a ticket, we're good to go. Somebody else comes in and they go, hey, what's the Wi-Fi password? Halp goes, oh, hey, we might actually know the answer to this one. And what happens is by recognizing that keyword, we're going to mention Mike in the thread with that canned reply that you can customize. So Mike goes, okay, great. That's awesome. That's exactly what I was looking for. This solved my issue. We're good. And you get data that says that was a successful answer. Or he says, hey, like, actually, this isn't what I'm looking for. I still need help. I want to talk to a real human. And now he's filling out that form and he's getting a genuine ticket. And we're back to the same exact flow we saw before, right? So this is great because answers can sweep up those really easy things that maybe just need a canned reply. And if it doesn't cut it, you can still get a real ticket to a person that can handle it. So that was working on a ticket from a DM, right? We did that. We talked about request channels, which is huge, and all of the settings that relate to it. And those are all queue level settings. What eventually we want to get to instead of somebody DMing you, right? Instead of the lease process is I'm Mike. And if it's not something that I want to post about in a channel, I just go and I make a ticket. And I'm the best user that I can be. And what that looks like is I go right to the Assist app and I click Raise a Request. So I'm going to circle back to this in just one moment, but it's worth mentioning that I can also look at my existing requests here. So these are all the tickets that Mike has already requested. and I can filter them by active or closed, right? So if I want to look at something that was closed a long time ago, I can do that. And I can hop into this one here too and say, is there an update? Or, hey, actually, this is fixed now, closed, we're good. Now, what's really important about coming here and clicking raise a request is two things. One, he will always have to fill out a form. So even if facilities doesn't require a form in their channel, when he goes right to the bot, he's going to have to fill out a form. So you're always going to get a little bit more info. The other thing that's important about this is whenever we click raise a request this way, by going right to the bot and clicking raise a request, it is always private for that requester. So for example, if it's an HR thing, you might not even want to use a request channel. Even with that privacy setting enabled, there's still the risk of somebody typing something in the channel and they don't realize how it works. A safe bet, if you're really worried about privacy, is say, hey, if you have anything that could be sensitive at all, just go to the bot, click raise a ticket or raise a request, and it's private for just you. And of course, the team that's going to handle it can see it too, right? So we did DM, we talked about channels, we talked about answers, we talked about going right to the bot and clicking create. What I want to talk about next, very briefly, is email. So although the vast majority of our features are focused on the Slack experience and making that great for everyone involved, there is an email side of Halp too. So if somebody gets locked out of Slack, they can still create a ticket. Or if for whatever reason, email is the best way to get in touch, it can happen. So what you would do is on the email page here of your Halp account, you can plug in some addresses that you're using. You can say which queue you want those to go to when a ticket's created. And then in that email address, so like in Gmail or O365, I would set it up to forward to the inbound address for my account. And that's what makes the ticket, right? It's going to land in your channel in Slack like every ticket will. It's going to land on this tickets page like every ticket will. Now, let's say this ticket here, 537 was created by email. The first is that it would say so instead of via the app. And if I were to reply and say hi from Slack, that user is seeing my message as an email back. So it's a normal back and forth for that person. I just happen to be in Slack, or I happen to be in my Halp account. It's important to mention that you can also customize the outbound domain so that when a reply comes from an agent, it's from your domain instead of Halp Mail. And you can also customize the initial response and the closed response, or turn them off altogether. But for mine, we have the basic one in here that includes their ticket number and says, hey, if you've got more to say, just reply to this email. So email is important. And the other thing that's important here is reporting. It's maybe the most important thing, right? Because if there are 1,000 messages in Slack that should have been tickets but never become them, you're missing out on that reporting and all of that data. So in Halp, there are a few ways you can do reporting. The first is on this tickets page where I can build out a good list for myself and filter by queue and assignee and form and all of that, or maybe filter not at all and just look at all tickets. I can take this list, I can export it as a CSV. In the CSV, you're going to get standard ticket data, right? Custom fields, time, title, status, assignee, that kind of thing. You're also going to get timestamps on when the ticket was created and when it was first responded to and when it was resolved. So you can slice and dice in the CSV or plug it into Tableau, right? This is the most manual option we have for reporting, but it's also the most flexible, right? You can do whatever you like with that CSV. We also have a dashboard for reports, which is more of the bird's eye view, where I can say, hey, for the month of July, I want to look at all tickets across the board, or stacked by queue and see how people are comparing, or teams are comparing to one another. Or maybe I only care about a certain request type, and I want to see how many VPN issues there were, and there were none. That's great. Or I want to see how a certain agent is performing over that time, and I can see customer satisfaction as well as average response and resolution time, right? This is very important here. You can use these filters to the best of your ability. And so what have we talked through? Let's rubber duck it really quick. We talked about making tickets in Slack in a variety of ways. We talked about queue level settings like private replies and requiring a form and so on. We've talked about making tickets in Slack and by email. I think what's important to talk about next is pricing. So the 10,000-foot view there is that how pricing is per agent. So you've got unlimited requesters and triggers and channels and all of that. You're only paying based on the number of people that need to be assigned tickets. Now, where things start to get different is how we determine who's an agent. And that happens based on the membership of your triage channels, of your queues, right? So that's why these channels, and it's the first thing you set up, that's why these channels should always be private, because I want to control who comes in and out. So if I invite a person, if Mike is joining the team and he's going to start working on facilities tickets, I invite him to the channel, and by the merit of being in this channel, he can see these tickets now, and he's added to our billing, and he's counted as an agent. And the same is true if I remove somebody. If I remove Mike, he's not in the channel anymore, he can't see those tickets, and at the start of your next billing cycle, you're one agent down, right? Now, there are some nuances here, and the first is that we only count unique agents. So, for example, 11, the person that I am right now, she's in like 7 triage channels. She's in 7 different teams. I can see all of these tickets, but I only count as one agent. You're not double or triple billed. The other side of that is a privacy thing, and that is that we have you fine-grained permissions between queues. So HR is a great example here. Let's say Halp or the HR team at your company wants to use Halp, but these tickets need to be completely locked down and nobody else can ever see them ever. If I'm not in that specific channel, if I'm not in the HR queue, I can't see those tickets anywhere. I can't see them in Slack because I'm not in that channel, and I wouldn't be able to see them on the tickets page here because I couldn't filter by that queue, right? Now we do have a useful pricing page for you. I'll just go ahead and blow this up real quick. On this pricing page, we have a calculator where you can plug in the number of agents and choose between monthly or annual and see what it's going to cost you. Every trial is on premium, so by default, this is what you'll be testing. The things that'll get you on premium are customization options. So things like white labeling the bot so it's got your name and logo, customizing messaging when it comes to email and Slack, customizing the outbound domain, having multiple inbound emails and also SLAs. You can see enterprise here. There's a few things left. These are mostly requirements that we place on customers. So the first has to do with custom security reviews, where if you require that the Halp team complete a custom security review, you need to be on enterprise for a certain number of agents. The vast majority of our customers are able to take our security information, complete a review themselves, and they don't have to worry about that. We also have one around a specific tier of Slack. If you are on Slack Enterprise Grid, then the Halp app will recognize this when you install and you'll be on Enterprise, and that's a requirement too. Now, the big tip I have for you here is in your Halp settings, if you go to the billing page, you can plug around and try various things and say, hey, annual for this number of people is going to cost this much, monthly is going to cost this much. If you click standard, because every trial is on premium, it'll tell you if you have any premium features enabled. So it'll say, hey, you've got more than one support email. That's a premium feature. You have SLAs enabled. That's a premium feature. So I might look at this list when my trial ends and go, oh, hey, I care about these features. They need to stay. So I know premium is the right fit. Or maybe I look at this list and I go, oh, actually, I can turn both of those off and it still works fine for me. So then I know standard is the way that I want to go. All right. So if you have questions, the best way to get help is to just stop by our website and you can start a trial. You can click add to Slack here and there's an onboarding flow that's going to get you set up with the basics. In your Halp account, there's a little question mark icon here that has a chat with us option. So if you're in the middle of something and you have a quick question, you can use that to speak directly with the support team. All right, thanks everyone.